In 2020, my business grew 39%. I launched a second profitable business, joined a $50,000 mastermind that I paid for in cash, and I also didn't work for almost 9 months. If you are interested in learning how to build a business like this, stay tuned because I'm teaching you my 10 biggest tips that I learned in 2020, making all this happen. Twenty 2019 was a really difficult year for me. I left a relationship that I'd been in for 7 years after 2 therapists told me to leave. Literally, 2 therapists that saw both my ex and I told me to run. They're not supposed to do that. So it was really rough, and being with someone for 7 years that was constantly belittling me and putting me down and making me feel less than obviously wasn't good for my mindset when it came to business. So in the beginning of 2020, I just kind of hid. I didn't work for about 8, maybe 9 months, and I didn't want to. I moved to a place in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the mountains of Colorado. My mornings consisted of waking up, making some coffee, lighting a candle, reading, and then I just never got to work. I never got my stuff together so that I could actually work every day. I'd make excuses. I'd drive to the grocery store, which was 30 minutes away, by the way. I'd go hiking, I'd go skiing, but at the end of the day, I hadn't done much work. And this cycle continued for months. It felt actually really bad. It wasn't this restful sabbatical time in my life. It was actually really stressful because I was like, when am I ever going to get my motivation back to go work again? I can't do this forever. So I'm really grateful that I had built a business that allowed me to do that. But at the same time, with the pandemic and everything, it just it wasn't happening for me. So one of my first steps to get back on track was to realize something that my friend Jenna Kutcher had told me a year earlier, which was that I was playing small. She was right. I was playing really small. I was staying stuck. I was letting excuses get in the way, and I was trying to minimize my success so that other people could be more comfortable. I know from talking to many of you on Instagram and Clubhouse that you've maybe felt the same way in the recent years where you feel like you've had to minimize your success so that other people could feel better about their lives. So for example, when a friend said that they were going through a really hard time, that they were getting divorced, and I had a good day, I would be like, yeah, I had a good day today, but I never have good days. This is just an exception, and I'm there with you. And it was like, why? Why can't you just own the things that are really good in your life? Why can't I never talked about my numbers or how much money my companies were making before this year because I just was so scared that people would see me making money or living in my dream home or whatever, and they would be jealous or be mean to me or get mad at me. And I realized I never felt that way about other people. I mean, I kind of felt a little jealous, but I never felt that way about other people. So why was I continuing to play small to fit into this role so that other people could be comfortable? Because I wasn't comfortable. So I stopped playing small. I started putting myself out there a little bit at a time. I mentioned that we had a good sale here and there. I mentioned that we had a good sales day. I mentioned that I had a nice time with my boyfriend. I mentioned that I might be moving and I took the luxury of hiring movers. I started talking about my life in a way that was uncomfortable at the time and still is sometimes, but it felt really good to finally be me, and it felt more authentic and genuine. And it's helped me a lot to stop playing small. I don't want to say that I'm there, I'm not I haven't arrived at being an influencer or something. I don't know that I want that either, but it definitely helped me when I realized that I was staying stuck and treating myself as a victim, that I was never going to expand or grow or have any other opportunities beyond that. The next thing I learned in 2020 was that I needed to connect with my audience more. We had spent 2019 on the back end of my business, setting things up, growing the customer service process, growing our affiliate program, but it was time to start talking to people and connecting with them because that was what was missing. So we had all these automations going, but it felt kind of bad that I wasn't reaching out and discussing things with my customer. I think that's also part of why I've just felt so out of touch for those 8 or 9 months that I took off, because I wasn't talking to anybody. I wasn't talking to any friends or customers. I was just kind of antisocial, and it felt really bad. One of my friends, Julia Taylor, she is a developer and she teaches people how to develop, and she uses Bonjoro in her company. And so she introduced me to this awesome app where I could send out little video messages to people who purchased our products or signed up for our email list, and I could say hello to them in a very personal way. It's kind of one-sided in that I make a video for them, they don't make a video back for me, but I'm okay with that. And it felt really nice to see some of these people connecting with me through the video and having these conversations after the fact, just really welcoming them into the fold at my shop, and then also creating some of the conversations that would then fuel the launch of my second business, which, hello, welcome, you're watching right now. Obviously, in taking so much time off, I had to learn to lean on others because my business still needed someone to make sure that customers were getting their orders, that any refund requests we had were processing, that any sales that we had were still running. And so I really had to lean on the team that I had built over the years prior. And actually, during this time, we, like right before I went into hiding, or hibernation as my coach likes to call it, I had actually let a lot of team members go because I just was feeling the burden of carrying so many extra people. And this is before the pandemic, this is before anything happened, so it gave them plenty of time to find new clients during that period, which I'm so glad that that all worked out that way, but it made things so much easier and lighter because now we only had 4 people on the team instead of 12. So really cut back and really leaned on the 4 people that were still there so that we could still operate a store, even though I was just kind of putting out fires here and there, really, like, I cannot emphasize enough, really not working. I should have been. Another thing I learned as I started to come out of this very sad, depressing period of my life was that you're not bothering people. If you reach out to them and they respond, that's their prerogative as an adult. They can choose not to respond. They can choose to tell you they're busy. They can choose to set a boundary and say, you're talking to me too much. But one of my big mindset issues is that I feel like I'm bothering people a lot of times, and it doesn't feel good to constantly hide, again, going back to the playing small thing, and not ask questions or have discussions with people or reconnect with people that I maybe haven't talked to in a long time because I felt like I was bothering them. And so one of the things I had to do was just own the fact that they were adults and they had to set that boundary for themselves. It wasn't up to me to decide that I was bothering them. It was up to them. And guess what? Nobody said anything. Nobody said, don't talk to me. Nobody said, you're bothering me. In fact, it was quite the opposite. People were really excited to hear from me again. They were excited that I had reached out, that I remembered them. So just reach out to people, talk to them. You're not bothering them. Especially if you're paying them, you're not bothering them. Lean on others. One thing that helped me come back from this like brink of non-existence or whatever you want to call it was my $100 a day rule. Now, this is a rule I implemented in my business very early on. And it's something that helped me to start to achieve $100 days because in the very first year of my business, the contract shop, we weren't getting daily sales. We were getting sales here and there and business was okay, but it wasn't great. So I made it my mission to make at least $100 every single day or put something in motion that would lead to a $100 day. What that meant was scheduling a lot of interviews, starting a podcast, writing a lot of blog posts. So if I could feel really good that what I did was a $100 a day activity, I felt like I was really productive. And I found myself excited and happy to wake up and start the day and move towards this $100 goal every single day. I still use this in my business. So last year, my goal was to hit $1,000 a day. This year, it's $2,000 a day. And by the end, actually by the second half of 2020, we were hitting $1,000 days, and with our sales and things like that, we were well over $1,000 a day on average. My goal is to literally see $1,000 on my Shopify account that came in that day. So I know that technically we make more than that because of how things average out and we do these big sales and everything, but I like to log into Shopify and look at yesterday's sales, and I like to always see $1,000 at least in there. So that's my goal. Similar to that, a lot of you have told me that you're feeling stuck Hi, hello. That was me for most of last year. Probably most of you guys last year. 2020 was just, ugh. One thing that I have consistently done when I am feeling, I don't want to say depressed, but just stuck or like overwhelmed, or I don't want to work on my business, like I'd rather watch Netflix or something. One thing that I've done is I've said I have to do one thing every day that moves the needle on my business in some small way. Sometimes when I'm feeling really overwhelmed, all that looks like is listening to a 2-minute podcast from my coach, Kelly Newsom-George. She's a self-care coach and she teaches about business sometimes too. And sometimes I just listen to a 2-minute episode of her Ritual Care podcast. This doesn't have to be a big task. It doesn't have to be you building a course or outlining a funnel. All it needs to be is something very small that keeps you engaged with business building. So congratulations, you're done with this for today because you've watched this video. Now give it a like and subscribe to this channel so that you can continue to do this on a daily basis. Something else I got really serious about in 2020 was personal finance. I started my business, maybe $73,000, $74,000 in credit card debt. I'd had 2 businesses that had failed before I started the contract shop, and those were very expensive. They didn't make any money, and in fact, I was living credit card to credit card, like below paycheck to paycheck. And I was just literally trying to free up enough room on my credit cards to pay for whatever the next thing I felt like I needed to invest in to grow these businesses. Remember, back in the day, like this is 2014, there wasn't as much free information like this video out there, so I had to buy a lot of things instead of watching things like this. And I didn't know where to look for a mentor because, again, there weren't videos like this of great people putting out great content that moved the needle for me. So I didn't really know what to look for when it came to learning from someone. As you can imagine, or as you literally heard, I wasted a lot of money trying to figure that out. I also killed my credit score and just generally wasn't living a very healthy personal financial life. So I got my finances in order, more or less. I mean, I still slip up every now and then. But one of the things I hadn't paid attention to, and this is really bad, was a retirement account of any sort. So in 2020, I finally started a retirement account. And if you're watching this before April 15th, 2021 in the US, it's not too late to start a retirement account for the past year. So you could fill a retirement account or at least put some cash towards your 2020 because after April 15th, you can't contribute anymore. You're locked out of contributing to that past year. So you've lost that year effectively to contribute to any kind of retirement. I'll make a video soon about small business retirement basics because I was clueless. I had to learn all this and it would have really helped to just have somebody that didn't assume that I knew all these crazy financial terms and like what the difference between a SEP IRA and like a solo 401k and all this. Ugh. People just look at you like you're supposed to know that. And it's actually really difficult to figure out. So in 2020, I took a hard look at that. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I read Ramit Sethi's book several times. I bought his advanced personal finance course. And I really learned what it would take for me to have some solid retirement accounts set up and what kind of amounts I would need in those accounts. It wasn't comfortable, but it did help me go from someone who was constantly getting overdraft texts to somebody that had a handle on their finances and could up-level their life in a big way. To be totally candid, part of this was also because I started paying myself. Sadly, I paid myself less than the poverty line wages, which is like $27,000 or something. Like I paid myself less than that for the first 3 years of my business. The 4th year, I paid myself slightly above that. I think it was like $33,000. And then last year, let's just say that I moved up a couple tax brackets. I started paying myself for real so that I could put money into retirement accounts. I stopped spending every single dime to put back into my business. And I really, really, really built up some knowledge in an area that I didn't think I was capable of learning because I'm bad at math and I don't know anything about finance. Guess what? Everybody starts from there. Nobody's taught personal finance, so this is a great opportunity because it's something that you can learn. It's not something that you need to be inherently good at. I mentioned some resources, so I'll link those below this video as well if you want to get serious about your personal finance journey. One thing I very reluctantly learned was that it was okay to take time off. Now, you could argue that I could have worked, and yes, I could have. I know that I wasn't physically incapable of it. I just cannot even tell you how hard it was to, like, I know this sounds so crazy and privileged and whatever, but I can't even tell you how hard it was for me to get up out of bed, shower. I would ride my Peloton. Did get that. That was a good investment, especially when March rolled around. And I mean, like, that was it. I was spent. That was all I could do day after day. It was when it came to thinking about business, I had so much anxiety. I had so much overwhelm. I didn't know where to start, and I just didn't. Like, I just didn't do anything. So if you are feeling that stuck, and I hope that what I'm saying is not resonating with you, because if it is, oh man, I know where you're at. And also, if it's not resonating with you, just feel really lucky that you haven't reached that level of burnout in your business. What I did learn though was when I took that time off, which really felt like forced time off, I thought everything was gonna fall apart. I thought that actually might get me back to work, is when things started to fall apart, then I could just feel that anxiety of things falling apart and not making money, and then I could finally get back to work because I'd have some kind of internal desire and drive to do it again. But that didn't happen. Things actually got better. We started making even more money. We grew the business 39%. We made enough that I was able to invest in a mastermind that helped pull me out of my funk. I get coaching from Sabrina Phillip. I'm one of 7 people in her inner circle that we pay $50,000 to be a part of. So it felt really good because I paid for that upfront in cash, something I never thought I'd be able to do, by the way. Which, it's funny that I'm saying this because I have my little list on my computer here. And the next thing on my list is a reminder for you to take bigger risks. I had never spent that much money on any kind of coaching. I mean, maybe cumulatively. Altogether, I hadn't spent that much money on coaching or self-improvement or business development in a single year. Total, I'm sure I've spent like probably close to $500,000 on that in my lifetime, but in a year, I never dropped that much cash on someone that was promising to take my business to the next level that I had literally never bought anything from before. So I'd never even bought like a lead magnet or like a freebie or anything from Sabrina. I mean, I'd seen her around, obviously, I knew about her, but I'd never given her a single dime before I wired $50,000 to her bank account. So it was really a leap of faith, and it also forced me to see that I could make bigger and scarier investments. And the trick about growing in your business is making the right scary investments. It's not enough to just throw money that scares you at something just to lose that money. Like, that's not a good idea. But if there's an actual person that you feel called to follow, if there's someone that you know could help you, and you decide to join one of their programs or their mastermind or whatever it might be, that's a really good investment, and it should scare you a little bit, because if it doesn't, you're not gonna take it seriously. You're not gonna show up. I literally show up to every single call, every single extra, every single bonus or feature, or like even little tiny email that she sends out. I read every word. I mean, paying really forces you to pay attention. So if all you're doing is collecting free information on the internet and you're not getting anywhere, that might be why. You might be at the level now where you have all the information. Now you need somebody who is going to continuously inspire you and keep you accountable and follow up with you. And usually that is in some sort of group coaching program to start with, and then you can level up into these kinds of bigger high-ticket masterminds that I've been able to join in the last few years. Joining her mastermind was also what inspired me to create my group coaching program called the Passive Product Players. This is a community of men and women who are excited to start their passive income journey. And by passive income, I'm definitely not talking about MLM or dropshipping or anything like that. I specialize in d-commerce, which are digital products sold through an online storefront. So for example, I sell digitally downloadable legal templates through a Shopify store called The Contract Shop. You don't have to have an online storefront. You could just be a course creator or someone who's like a coach and you're looking to add some more passive revenue streams or passive booking systems in your company to join the Passive Product Players. It's just really all about living a freedom-based lifestyle instead of a time-based lifestyle where you're trading all of your time for dollars. Speaking of which, the number one thing I tell everybody inside the passive product players is to do more of what works. It's really boring, which is why people don't do it, but it really works. If you look at what you are selling in your company and you have a decent product or offering that people are buying, sell more of that. Max that out, automate the shit out of it, and get that going like wildfire so that you can then remove yourself from the sales of that offer, whether it's a one-on-one offer and you hire other people to do the work, or it's a course that obviously is already created, you just have to sell over and over again, or it's a d-commerce product like the ones I sell, where people just go to a storefront and buy them. If you have something that sells, focus on selling that thing to its maximum capacity instead of trying to create all these new things all the time. Because if you try to create so many new things, it's fun and it's exciting, but it can burn you out and you're gonna be really frustrated because you're not gonna see the kind of growth and development that, say, someone like myself or the people that I look up to as mentors have seen. Okay, finally, this one's really important. A rule that I have implemented in my business from the beginning is that I pick 3 mentors max to follow per year. In the beginning, I didn't have any money. You guys heard, I was like $73,000 in debt. So my mentors were podcast hosts. They were people that did webinars, that had good blogs. I would pick 3 of them, and they would be the people that would carry me through the year. I was allowed to swap out 1 or 2 of them mid-year if I wanted to, but the reason why I picked only 3 mentors is because if you are listening to everyone under the sun, like if your strategy is just to go on Instagram and see what catches your attention, you are going to be so confused and feel so overwhelmed, and you are never, ever going to get anything done because everyone's going to be telling you that there is a different way to get things done. Guess what? I live in Colorado. If I want to get to Texas, where my family lives, there are a million ways for me to get there. But at the end of the day, I will still end up at my parents' house no matter which way I take. It's a lot easier to consider the 3 routes that you have available to you than the 50,000 routes that you have available to you. This is why I am adamant that you pick 3 people to follow on a consistent basis. Implement their tactics, their strategies, and what they have to say to you. Lean on them for mindset, coaching, and work, and use them as your mentor for that year period. If you need to change it out because something has changed in your life or your business, go ahead and swap 1 or 2 of them out before the year is up, but really stick to those 3 people only. That doesn't mean you can't consume content from other people. It just means that you are going to be following the path that these 3 people have set forth for you. If you can choose even less than 3, that's even better. So that's what I've got for you. These are my 10 things that I changed, that I learned in 2020, and that I'm bringing with me into the new year that you can also apply in your life and business. Just to recap, number 1 was stop playing small. Stop minimizing your happiness and your success so that other people can be comfortable. Number 2, find ways to connect with your audience. Especially if you have some automations going, find a way to layer in a personal connection using tools like Instagram DMs or apps like Bonjoro, which I'll link below. Number 3, lean on other people, especially if you're paying for them. You are not bothering other people, and as women especially, we need to get out of this narrative that when we ask someone a question or a favor that we're bothering them. If we are bothering them, they're adults, they're gonna tell us as much. Number 4, just friggin' sell something. Just make $100 a day. If you think I have to make $100 today, you will find something to sell. Number 5, if you're feeling stuck, do one thing every single day that moves the needle on your business, just a little tiny bit. Number 6, learn about investing, retirement planning, and personal finance. It doesn't have to be boring. There's lots of really awesome, fun podcasts that talk about this, plus some resources I'll link below. Number 7, don't be afraid to take some time off. It might just lead you to bigger and better results than you could have ever imagined. Number 8, take bigger risks. If things don't feel a little bit scary, you're probably not gonna get much out of them. Number 9, do more of what works. It's boring, but it will lead you to bigger and better results than you could have ever dreamed of. And number 10, pick 3 mentors that you're going to follow over the next year, whether you're watching this in January 2021 or any other time. You can start anytime. This is important if you want to see real results, because if you're following 50,000 different people's ideas and thoughts and captions on Instagram, you are never going to get anywhere. So pick 3 people, follow their plans, follow their guidance, use them as mentors, lean on them as coaches, and that's it. I'm Christina Scalera. Thank you so much for following me here today. I hope this has been helpful. I know this is going to resonate with some of you, so if it did, make sure you give this video a like, you're subscribed to the channel for future episodes on the topics that we've covered here today, where I'll dive deeper into each of them. Plus, for bonus points, if you want to leave me a comment below, I personally read and respond to all of them. I would love to hear from you, love to hear what you have to say, love to hear what you're struggling with. I could maybe even help you. So leave me some feedback below this video. It would mean a lot to me. I'll see you next week. Take care.